you like these stories and you want to follow the giants along on their adventures, please hit the subscribe button. Tonight, I want to tell you a little bit more about Norman, the lake squid. Now, obviously, Norman is not your typical squid. Typically, squids live in the ocean with salt water, but Norman, well, he preferred fresh water, especially fresh water in the giant lake up on Giant Mountain. On this particular day, Norman was quite bored. He had already eaten his fill of fish for the day, and his house was clean, so he had nothing left to do at home. He decided he could race around the lake a few times, see how fast he could go. So he raced around the lake once. He got around pretty fast. So he raced around again, and again, and again, and he went around one more time. And then he got really dizzy, and he decided that maybe racing around in circles was not a great idea. So, to get undizzy, he raced around the lake the opposite direction. He went around once, he ran around twice, and then he felt a little better. And he swam to the bottom of the lake, and he picked out a few of the skinniest, flattest rocks he could find, and he swam up to the surface of the water. He lifted one of his big, giant tentacles out of the water, and he was skipping rocks. He could skip them up to 12 times. All he had to do was make sure that he angled his tentacle in the perfect angle, and then flick where his wrist would have been if he was a human, and let go of the rock, and then he could watch it skip down the lake. After Norman had skipped about 50 rocks, give or take a few, he decided that he was kind of over skipping rocks, and maybe he could pretend to be an explorer and explore the island on the lake. So, with his tentacle wrist, he stretched it back out so it wouldn't get sore from skipping all those rocks. He dove under the water and close up to the island. Norman collected seashells. So while he was exploring, he was looking for the seashells to add to his collection. He had to look pretty close up to the rock to find any kind of seashell. So he got right up to the island under the water and started looking and putting his tentacles in and out of different crevices to find any seashells he could find. As he went along, he met a crayfish. And the crayfish was pretty cute, but Norman didn't think he could handle having a pet right now. He kept going across the island underneath the water and feeling around with his tentacles. Then he came to a rock that was a little bit loose. So he just gave it a little tiny push. Not very hard, just a little one, and it fell. And then he noticed the rocks behind it were loose too. So he kept poking at him with his tentacle, not very hard because he didn't want to damage something he shouldn't damage. And the rocks just kept coming out. And all of a sudden he realized there was a cave under the island inside the water. He was very curious about this cave, but before he went in it, he swam home to get his safety equipment. When he got home, he grabbed his pickaxe, a rope, and a helmet. And I know squids don't have skeletons like you and I, but it still hurts them when they get bumped in the head by a rock. He put the helmet on immediately, threw the rope over one of his tentacles, and held on tight by twisting his tentacle around the pickaxe. He quickly swam back to the island where he had found the cave. Before entering the cave, he carefully touched the rocks that were remaining with his tentacle to make sure that there was no more loose rocks so that none would fall on his head or on one of his tentacles. And after removing just a couple more he had missed the first time, he started peeking into the cave. And you would not believe what he saw. He saw writing on the wall of the cave. The writing didn't make any sense to him because he didn't know how to read or write. They were fun to look at, though. He saw like little pictures of plants and ships and animals that he had never seen before. He spent about an hour looking at every picture he saw and trying to figure out what it all meant. And he was able to put his tentacle up on the cave wall and feel the indents of where the writing was. This was very fascinating to him. Squids, they don't know how to write or draw or anything, so this was all new to him. But then he decided, you know what? I brought a chisel with me. Why don't I scratch some pictures in there? So he took out his chisel and he started chiseling away. He wasn't very good because he'd never done this before, but he was able to scratch out a pretty good picture of a squid and a giant, and he actually made a picture of the lake, a map of it, down under the cave. When he had finished with that, he swam all the way back to the deepest part of the cave that he could get to. And there, on the ground, he found some seashells, some very curious seashells he had never seen before. He picked one up and looked at it. He gave it a shake, and it seemed pretty solid and shiny, and he thought, oh, this would look nice in my home. My collection could use this. And then he picked up two more that looked pretty close to what that one looked like. And then he saw a bigger one. Actually, it was kind of a giant seashell. And he picked it up and it opened. And inside was a clam. And the clam didn't have eyes, but it almost seemed like it was trying to communicate to him. It kept moving its tongue left and right and moving in kind of these weird circular motions. So he tipped the seashell upside down and out fell a pearl. And this was not just a normal white pearl. This pearl was an iridescent pink pearl. It almost was rainbowy. He had never seen anything like this, and he knew that there was something very special about this clam. So he held that clam tight, and he picked up the pearl, and he brought all the seashells he had found, his pickaxe, and his rope back home. When he got home, he put the seashells he had found and the clam on a rock shelf. He examined the clam a little closer, and it was not opening up this time. It just stayed sealed shut. So he decided, I'm hungry. I'll go catch some fish. So he left and he caught some fish and he ate them. And when he came back, the clam was still shut, very tight. He couldn't even pry it open with his tentacles or his pickaxe. So he went to bed, and all he could think about was that clam and how it seemed to want to say something to him. In the morning, when Norman woke up, the first thing he did was check on his clam. It's funny, it was definitely in a different place than he had put it. And the seashell collection he had was rearranged. And he noticed the pearl was missing. So he turned to the clam and he knocked on it. Clam opened up and again was communicating to him. He did not understand what it was saying at all. So Norman very calmly picked it up in his tentacle and then started swimming in the direction that the clam was pointing. First, it pointed behind him, so he started swimming that way. And then it pointed to the right, So he swam right, and then it pointed straight, so he went straight. After following the directions of the clam for about 10 minutes, he came to the other side of the lake, where there's some rock formations all set up. The clam kept lifting up and pointing up, so Norman went to the surface. He didn't see anything, so that must not have been what the clam wanted. He went back under the water, and the clam pointed back at the rock formations, so Norman went back to the rock formations. And the clam made that upward motion. So Norman took his tentacle, and he lifted up one of the rocks, and underneath was a huge pile of different colored pearls. There was peach pearls, and purple pearls, and gray pearls, and yellow pearls, and green pearls, every color of pearls. And they were all pretty big and looked so cool. Norman decided he would order them in rainbow colors. So first he put the pink one, then the peach one, then the yellow one, then the green one, and then the blue one, and then the purple one, and last the gray one. And the clam just sat there while he did all this and didn't seem to mind at all. Then he took the pearl out of the clam's shell and placed it in the line that he had made. He also decided that the next time that the giant kids came, he would definitely show them these pearls. These pearls were so cool, and he had never seen anything like this in his whole life. He had never really left the lake his whole life either, but he knew that this was really cool and there was something special about these pearls. He waved goodbye to the clam and swam back to his house in the deep hole in the lake. There he sat, quite satisfied with knowing that although he had lived in that lake his whole life, there were still surprises to be seen. And he knew that even if he got bored and he had nothing more to do, he could always go exploring and find something new. The end. Good night, Giants. Now that you've been laying in your bed, I'm sure you've noticed that your toes are beginning to feel heavy and fall asleep. Your feet are beginning to feel heavy and fall asleep. Your shins are getting heavy and falling asleep. Your knees are getting heavy and are falling asleep. Your thighs are getting heavy and falling asleep. Your hips are feeling falling asleep. Your tummy is getting heavy, as if someone has poured sand right into your belly button. And falling asleep. Your chest is getting heavy as your breathing is slowing down into a deeper breath. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Your fingers are beginning to feel heavy and fall asleep. Your hands are beginning to feel heavy and fall asleep. Your wrists are beginning to feel heavy and fall asleep. Your arms are feeling heavy and falling asleep. Your neck is getting heavy, falling asleep. Your face is getting heavy and falling asleep. As you fall asleep, relax your lips, relax your cheeks, relax your forehead, you relax your eyes to a nice, closed, relaxed state. And last, you relax your whole head and feel how heavy it is sinking into your